Hello world, Agustin Cortez coming live from Web3, and I'm not gonna lie, I almost missed today's video. I was just wrapping up things. I'm like, something's missing, and it wasn't documenting the day. So to recap and begin the day, I definitely focused more on technical aspects in the morning. I went into learning more about Solidity patterns, which are the best practices to uh, develop contracts. And I was also learning a lot about Solidity security with vulnerabilities to change ownership through changing the code, like the technicalities and functions you can create once you know baseline operations. Like the exercise I learned today was converting the function to the bytecode and then doing something with the bytecode to trigger another function, and then that function triggers another function, and then that function triggers the swapping of the ownership of the smart contract. And it's mind-boggling that that can be done through one vulnerability. So, having that metacognition and coding, I'm like, this is fascinating stuff. So, one of the patterns that I learned about today was called guard check. And it's really cool because Solidity programming, I'm sure other languages have it. I just haven't gone to this depth, but the best practices, they tag and put hierarchical operations for the processes. And in Solidity, one of the core hierarchy processes was called behavioral patterns. And within behavioral patterns, there's four components. There's guard check, which is making sure functions execute as expected and don't leave holes within the operations and the logic. Then there's state machine, then there's oracles, and then there's randomness. Um, I have, surface understanding for the other three. State machine, probably work with storage, data, EVM, and other components that are more baseline. I would say deeper to the core of the protocol or to the blockchain itself. Oracle is all I know is really the middleman of data. They have to be trusted sources that um, data that they recall has to be accurate. So for example, like Coinbase, how they price Ethereum is based off an Oracle. Big component right now is Chainlink. So Chainlink is like the Google of indexing data in the blockchain. So when companies need data from the blockchain, they go to Chainlink, and Chainlink is a very reliable Oracle. So there's that working with oracles probably, and then randomness. So this is interesting. I didn't know about this until I started getting deeper into programming, but randomness is actually quite difficult. The algorithm to make something truly random is difficult in itself. There's really interesting aspects, like there's a algorithm for randomization that your computer, your hardware tracks every single keyboard tap and uh, basically interaction through a keyboard touch, and it accumulates. And then based off that number or that process, I don't know, the other elements to the very algorithm, it'll hash randomness. So I'm like, wow, like, from everything that you do is essentially being stored in the hardware, and then they create a randomness algorithm out of that. I'm not too sure what hardware uses that, the specifications of that, but that's quite interesting. Another randomness algorithm is your mouse positioning, like where your mouse is placed on the screen, it'll trigger a randomness number, right? So this is quite fascinating, and it reminds me of encryption, how important encryption is in blockchain. Once you realize crypto, I mean, it's literally called cryptocurrency, how relevant randomization and encryption, and I actually learned a cool word today, I think it's called obfuscation, something along those lines, where you just manipulate the data to make it unreadable. And it's basically like encryption. And it's quite funny because learning that word today, I was at the gym and I look at the TV and they're playing an infomercial. I think it was definitely an older channel for an older demographic, because the product was something for physical mail that you run over this like stamp looking thing, and it would object objectificate. I forgot the word exactly, but it basically would encrypt or make the data on the letter unreadable, like your house address or your full name. So it's quite interesting. It's like a little confirmation bias story there, but yeah, this is one component to building in the space, and it's fascinating. It's interesting. Then I took the other half of the day. So that's my technical side. Then I ripped it off into more of a, I would call it like the subjective world, learning more about NFTs, collections, community, Discord, engaging on Twitter. I believe I'm starting to crack Twitter to get more engagement, gain more followers, build a following for myself, and Learnio. It's quite fun to recruit. So that was the area. But one area that really left me pondering on is how, as a bystander of outcomes right now, like it's the NFT collection of the metadata being rigged, or how projects are reacting to upset people, to potential protocol build on chain, to other people on a similar path in the education sector. It puts, through all that empirical experience, it puts one in a unique position. And every time I look at the web or I go on Twitter, I feel like I'm a bystander in the fastest, most intense highway in the world. That's the information, the highway of information. Sorry. I think I got that analogy from Bill Gates. There's a book called Business at the Speed of Thought. So it's one of the bookshelves back there. And talk about the information highway there, how the internet was the information. That makes a lot of sense. So internet being the cutting edge form of the internet, now it's like, it's fascinating. It's exciting at the same time. And I'm getting my training wheels to jump into this highway and be a racer in there, be a builder. So it's super exciting. This is why we do the late nights. This is why we do so many sacrifices. This is why we dedicate majority of our life to it, really. Not to say it lightly, but being in Web3, your life, being obsessed, I would say, and being to the extremities of the depth of Web3, you live a lot on the internet, a lot more than the tangible world that we know of. All right, and that's for another conversation. The more and more immersed they get, the more and more depth and connection I have with the space. It's quite a really metacognitive experience. Yeah, that itself is a heavy conversation, right? Like, how does that affect the psyche? Does it trigger all personas, or the exposure of my reactions to real life stimulus? Is my genetic sequence like actually evolving to process digital stimulus and physical stimulus in a different manner than my ancestors, which I believe is happening? But yeah, definitely. And the thing is, like, you can't get answers through this, right? It's just thoughts and theories that you might not really get true answers anytime soon, unless you dedicate to learn to the field like epigenetics, cutting edge. You might be able to pick up some validation on theory. But yeah, I said I wasn't gonna rip off, but there I go. I guess I love talking too much, or talking a lot. All right, so we'll conclude there. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. It really means a lot. The fact that we're in the space together. I felt the community has been getting tighter. Shout out to the community members, the area, Ardiax, I believe that's how you pronounce it. Glitchy Magic, Hope Whaley, Care, Faustau, Design UX, right? These are people coming on top of the mind that, like, we're building here. We're in the space, we're sharing a bond. Oh, can't forget brocheries. It's quite interesting to get people that I personally know and see their digital identity. It's cool. I like it. But yeah, regardless, the community is growing, it's fostering, and we're all flourishing. All right, so I'll conclude here, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.